Hi, I am going to be explaining the differences between the Kebonnixs 12-egg incubator and the Nurture Right 360, which holds 22 eggs today. I've been promising this video for a long time, and some of you have been asking where it is. So finally today I am doing this video. So I have back here is the Kebonnixs 12-egg incubator. And this is the Nurture Right 360. And they are extremely similar. So I'm going to be talking today about what's similar about them, what's different, what I like and what I don't like. We're going to talk about the setup and the components. We're going to talk about ease of cleaning, and I'm going to clean them for you so you can see the difference. And we'll talk about the capacity and the noise level, and if you guys have any questions, then feel free to drop a comment and I'll answer them as best I can. So these units, I'm actually going to take this right off. They are extremely similar, and you can tell by looking at them in here, like a lot of these components are very similar. They both have egg turners. The mechanism for the turners is a little bit different. And the way they are set up to keep the humidity constant is a little bit different. So they do both have this these recessed hand grips, so you can pull the lid on and off. I find it's a little bit easier for me on the Kebonnixs because it's smaller. But you can see they both have them. Just my hands have a hard time getting a hold of this one quite as well. The other thing I would say that I like slightly better about the Kebonnixs, they do both have this egg handler on top, and I find with the Kebonnixs, with the black plastic, you get a little bit better illumination of your egg than you do with this white. Leaks a little bit of light, whereas the black absorbs the light, so it doesn't reflect as much of it. And then when we open them up, you can see, so these little mats, I have a mat in each one. These are completely aftermarket. They don't come with the unit. I made these myself. I just bought some shelf liner. I'll link that below, the one that I used, and I just traced the wheel here, and actually you can still see the Sharpie marker where I did that and made a mistake, but it's super easy to make. It makes them quieter when they turn the eggs. The Kebonnixs is much quieter to begin with because this is solid underneath, whereas this has a grating underneath. So the eggs sort of make a little more noise when they're rolling around on the grating versus the solid bottom. And with the mat, they are both quieter with the mat, but the Kebonnixs is always quieter than the Nurture Right 360. And that's probably not going to be an issue unless you've got your incubator in your bedroom where you're trying to sleep. So for the Kebonnixs, this is the moisture chamber in here. They both have external fill chambers that you will fill up. Now with the Kebonnixs, you are going to fill up to these little marks. So when you're doing your first, well, for chickens it would be their first 18 days, you're going to fill no higher than this mark, and that's going to fill this chamber here. Okay, and that is going to give you the surface area you need for this incubator. When you get into lockdown and you want a higher humidity, you're going to fill it until it stays above this line, and that's going to overflow into this chamber too, and then you have this extra surface area, and that's going to give you the humidity that you need for your hatch. And I will say what I like about having this center humidity well is when the chicks are hatching, this stays a lot cleaner than this one does. And I'll open this up in a moment and you'll see the difference and why that is. So it makes this a lot easier to clean. And then when we come over here and we take our egg turner out and our mat off, you can see we have this grating. And then when we take this out, you can see as we had over here, we had the 2 chambers for the humidity. You have your 2 chambers here, your A and your B. So in your first 18 days, you're going to put water in A and you're going to keep this filled. Well, A, if you follow the chamber, is just this chamber right here. And if you follow B, which is for lockdown, right, it's this chamber and it comes around and it does all of this. So you end up with a lot more surface area. Again, like this one, you did have a lot more surface area because you had just this little wedge versus the entire circle. But just so you know, this is going to take not nearly as much liquid to fill as this. And I think I'll do another video about that, talking about potential humidity problems. One of the things I noticed when I filled this B reservoir was it would look like it was full, and really what was happening is it was only coming in about this far, and the surface tension was keeping it from flowing. But you really have to keep filling this, because this is so shallow, right? You have to fill this little thing. It'll look like it's coming out, but then as it goes through, this level comes down. So you have to fill this up a number of times before you get all the surface area covered, and it's really the surface area that's driving your humidity. So and I'll talk about that in a separate video as well. So that's the difference on what you're getting with your humidity. And we'll just put this back together. And again, this just sits right up on here. I do find the Nurture Right, because you have these little notches where that will sit, and I apologize because I'm trying to do this one-handed. It's a little bit harder to get this one back together one-handed just because it's bigger and it has a tiny bit of flexibility to the edge, where this one doesn't, really, just because it's smaller, and possibly because it's round helps as well. But those are the 2 units, and you'll find the components up here, they are extremely similar. And if you're looking at your user manuals, the functions, they do both have you know, the quick menu instructions on here, and the commands are actually very similar. I almost even think they're the same. So that is convenient as well. I would even question, these units are so similar that I would question if they're manufactured at the same facility, because they are, I mean, you just look at some of the components inside and you can tell they look extremely similar to one another. I did find that the function of the 2 units is extremely similar. I get very similar hatch rates. I get excellent hatch rates from both of them. And I think any issues that I've had with hatch rates have been traceable back to the eggs and really not the units. But generally I get a 75% or better hatch rate on each of these. And they've both done excellent for me. And I did just want to plug these in real quick so you can see the difference in the display. So I just plugged these in, so they're going to try to control to the humidity and the temperature that they want, so you'll see those going up. I did find that they both controlled extremely well for temperature. I really, once they got up to temperature for a couple hours, I didn't see any changes other than when I'd open the lid. So I have no complaints there, and I ran these as early as February in Maine, so they were closer to a window than would probably be advised, and the temperature stayed nice and steady Granted, our windows aren't terribly drafty, so that helps. But just so you can see the display, you've got a little more color on this one. But these displays are extremely similar. One of the ways that these incubators are different is cleaning. So this is one of the things that I find to be pretty significant. So I actually ran these two incubators at the same time, and these are the dirty incubators. So while the tops are pretty similar, set these right next to each other, and you can see that they pretty much have the same fan assembly and the same setup on the lids. Where the difference really is in the trays. So I do use these liners. I feel like it is a little gentler for the eggs, and it really cuts down on the noise. So I like them. You can just cut a new one. I just bought shelf liner, and then I traced the egg turners on it and cut it to size so it would fit. Okay, so this is the Nurture Right 360, and you can see on this one it has the holes and the water reservoirs underneath. And then this is the Kebonnixs, and this one you can see has a solid bottom where the eggs sit, and the reservoir for the water, for the humidity, is in the center. And that's one of the big differences with these. So I find that this one is quite a bit easier to clean, the Kebonnixs, because you have this tray to clean, and for the most part you can reach what's in there pretty easily. This has been all dried, and I'm trying to do this with one hand, so, but that does just slide off the top. And I'll pop out the tripod in a minute. We can get that. So this comes off, and then you can kind of see in here, some of these gaps are pretty narrow, right? And I have to use a toothbrush to get in there, and still sometimes it's a complete pain. And as you can see, you're getting the chick down, and the, you know, their first poop is getting washed down into this area. And so on this one, I find that it's a lot easier to clean because you end up with the tray, and especially if you use the liner, then you really don't have as many nooks and crannies to get into. So we'll move these over to the sink, and I'll show how I clean them. And then another thing to keep in mind is in these fans, you can see the down that are on the fins of the fan. And usually what I do is I take a little mini screwdriver, I open this up, and I clean what I can, and I use canned air to clean what I can't reach. And the same over here. These two mechanisms are very similar between the Kebonnixs and the Nurture Right. So I'm going to pop this on a tripod, and we'll move over to the sink, and you can watch and see just how terrible it is to clean these incubators. Okay, so over here I have already put the mats in. I do clean the mats. Sometimes if they get really bad, I just toss them and cut a new one. But I find they're not really hard to clean. I just take a little bit of dish soap and a sponge and just clean off both sides. You can pretty much tell when they're clean or if they've still got anything on them. And then I just let them dry completely, and they won't harbor bacteria if there's no moisture present. And I've never had a problem with cleaning them. But some people might feel like, you know, they're contaminated or whatever, and you might never be able to wash them completely, and that's fine. You can just cut a new one. And a lot of times you can purchase these, I think, on like eBay or Etsy. I think either one you probably could find these mats cut to the size of your incubator. Again, I have this larger one is the Nurture Right 360, and the smaller one is the Kebonnixs, which does 12 eggs. You might find after a couple uses, if you get a tear in one, you just cut a new one. The shelf liner is not really very expensive. It's kind of affordable, and you certainly can cut. I think I could cut 4 or 5 maybe. It depends on what size you order. Okay, so next up we have the Kebonnixs tray. You do have the cord. You want to make sure not to get that wet. So I tend to take it, and again, just being very careful not to submerge it and not to get the cord wet. I do take and rinse it off. And this one, I really like how easy it is to clean because you don't have the reservoir underneath the eggs. It's really just a matter of wiping it down and cleaning it off. And it can be a little hard to get in this tray, a little tricky. I do use a toothbrush when I'm doing this cleaning. It helps me get in some of the places that are hard to reach. And on the Kebonnixs, there aren't really any nook and crannies that are so hard that you can't get at them with the toothbrush. So most of it you're going to be able to clean with the sponge. You do have this little channel where you fill the reservoir. This is your external fill. So you do have a little bit of a channel under there that's not accessible. But I just rinse it until it comes clear. And that's worked fine for me. And I do try, oops, sorry. I do try to make sure to get all of the areas that I can reach very well. And then if I do get any like staining or anything like that, that just doesn't look as nice, I like it to look nice. A magic eraser will take care of those pretty easily. You keep it looking nice and pretty. And that's it for the Kebonnixs for the base. So moving on to the Nurture Right 360. We do have this piece of grating to wash. And again, on the Kebonnixs, you had just the base to wash. You didn't have this grating. Another thing about the grating that I would chalk up in the disadvantage column is it causes a bit more noise when the eggs are rolling on it. So you will hear a lot more. It's just almost sort of like an echo, but it is more noise. So if you have it in your bedroom and you're trying to sleep, you're going to hear those eggs turn at night unless you're a pretty heavy sleeper. And I did find with the liner, the shelf liner, it does cut down on the noise quite a bit. So it was insanely quiet in the Kebonnixs. It was already quiet in the Kebonnixs, but it was whisper quiet with the Kebonnixs with a liner. And with the Nurture Right with the liner, it also, it no longer woke me up at night once I put that liner in there. So this can be a little bit of a pain because you're trying to get all those nooks and crannies and you want to make sure that you got everything out of there, and it's just a lot more surface area to wash and to inspect. Okay, so we'll let that dry. And then next we have the base. Again, you want to be careful about the electronics. Don't lose your plug. This is the B plug. You will need that when you use it again. So this, you can kind of see where the disadvantage is. There's just a lot more, there's more channels, there's more sort of small spaces for the down and the crud to sort of accumulate and have to be cleaned out of. And again, I'm just using Dawn dish soap and a sponge. and I'll likely come back with my magic eraser. There will be some areas that I'll need to get into with a toothbrush because I can't get in with a sponge and reach them. And on this outer channel, it's actually a little bit of a pain to get in there even with a toothbrush. And that's sort of the big disadvantage that I see on cleaning between the Nurture Right 360 and the Kebonnixs. Is the Kebonnixs is a lot simpler to clean. And granted, it only holds 12 eggs to the Nurture Right's 22. But it just is nice to be able to have a nice, simple, straightforward cleaning experience. You know, obviously, cleaning isn't really the fun part of anything. I don't enjoy cleaning. I enjoy having clean things. I don't like the actual cleaning. It's sort of boring. And so you can kind of see, like, there's some spots in here that are not fun to get to. These channels are kind of narrow. You've got a lot of corners. You've got these, I think these are supports in here, but they're really hard to get around and clean around them. So I do spend significantly more time cleaning this than the Kebonnixs. So where they are very similar, this is one of the areas where they are a little bit different, and the experience is quite different for cleaning. But they're just really hard to reach spots. This is a little bit pointed in the bottom here, so it's I can't even get my finger in there at the very bottom. And it just makes it very difficult to get it cleaned out. And then with these ridges here, it's near impossible to get the toothbrush in to kind of get out that last little bit of fuzz. So I usually use a tiny screwdriver, but I can't find it. I'm going to take these two screws out. This one is the Nurture Right 360. And I'm going to remove this fan cover so that we can get at the fan and clean it out. And we really want to make sure, because you don't want stuff building up over time as you use it. After one use, it's not going to be a big deal, but the more you use it, the more you're going to want to make sure that you're cleaning it. And so I usually just take a damp cloth and I wipe down this fan. Take some electronics duster, or it's just canned air, and I spray this out. That's going to help get some of that crud out. And then as far as the rest of the lid, I just will take it and I'll wipe it down with soap and water. And again, this is very similar for both the Nurture Right and the Kebonnixs. You do want to be very careful with water on this, because you don't want to get your electronics wet. So I tend to use just a damp towel with maybe just a little bit of soap on it, because I don't want any of these electronics to be compromised by my cleaning method. Okay, and then you do want to put bring this back. You do need to put your fan cover back on, so you have a hole where I don't know if that's your thermocouple or your humidity measurement, and it is really important that you want to put this cover back on, because that is there to prevent the chicks from getting up in where the fan blades are and getting hurt. And now we're going to reassemble our incubator units. So with the Kebonnixs, this has the teeth go up, and then you have the teeth coming down here, and it makes sort of a little cogwheel, and then you want to make sure when you put that on, you don't want to turn this to fit those wheels. You want to turn the yellow portion until it falls down on. Okay, so there's that. You obviously you'll put your water in here. Oh, and I have my little mat, so we'll take this back off and put that in. And again, this does not come with the unit. This is something that I added just so the surface isn't as slippery when the chicks hatch. It gives them a little bit of grip, and it also, I think it kind of makes it easier to clean, and it makes it quieter when the eggs are turning. So I do like that. And then I did reassemble this. So we just go ahead and put this back on. And you just, this has little slots, and you just line them up. And then they fit in there. Again, you have your B plug, which is super important, so you want to make sure not to lose that, because you will need it for your next hatch. If you do lose it, I've seen people put tape over that, and that seems to work. And again, the mat is optional. That does not come with the incubator. Oops. Put our turner back on, and then and again, you have little slots that you would, although this will reach if you don't have it lined up, but I do like to put them so that they are both aligned to the back. I do find with this unit being larger that I find the lid a little bit more fiddly to align. It still fits in there fine, it just sometimes takes a few more tries. And then again, you have your power that plugs in, and now you've cleaned your incubators. So again, the cleaning was different on these. I prefer cleaning the Kebonnixs, but again, that does 12 eggs. I can do 22 in here. So to some extent, it's a little bit of personal preference, and that's one of the larger differences between these two units. So in conclusion, comparing the Kebonnixs to the Nurture-Right 360, I would say they are both excellent units. I don't think you're going to go wrong with either one of them. I think ultimately what it comes down to is if the ease of cleaning is important to you, then that may choose you to go with the Kebonnixs. But really, I think the big thing for me is when I'm deciding which one to use is how many eggs I want to hatch. I do get 12 in here and 22 in here. And it really just depends. Like sometimes I have a small batch. Obviously, when I'm hatching eggs, I want to be able to tell the chicks apart. So if I have Easter eggers, I'm not going to put those in with anything that's not going to be really obvious what the difference is. So, and a lot of times I run them and I start them at the same time. So I'll just split them up so that I know I can tell the difference between the eggs that I'm hatching if I'm looking for blue egg layers or olive eggers or whatever, and then I know whichever one comes out of which incubator. I usually put a little band on their leg so I can tell them apart once they get in the brooder. But then I know based on which incubator I take them out of, I know which chickens I'm dealing with. And a good example is Delawares and Breasts. When they are at hatch, you cannot tell them apart. At least I can't. It takes a few weeks for the breasts to get the blue legs, and it takes, I want to say, even longer than that for the Delaware to start having their the color they have on their tails and their neck. And so if I were going to hatch them at the same time, which I might stagger the hatches to be able to tell them apart, but if I did do them at the same time, I would probably break them up into different incubators, and so I might do that. And if I was doing black copper Marans, the Marans I'm going to be able to tell because they're black versus the yellow of the other chicks. So I might put the eggs I have for the Bress in one and the Delaware in another and fill in with the BCM. So that's something that I might do just based on what I have. Obviously, you might have breeds that you can tell apart no matter which incubator they're in. But for me, it just comes down to size. This one is pretty affordable at the time of this video. This one runs about $90 on Amazon, and I'll put a link down below. This one I got at Tractor Supply, and it was about $150. I've not really seen that on sale much. I've seen this one vary from about $90 to $95 on Amazon. I've only ever found it on Amazon. I don't know if they might be carried elsewhere. I'm in the USA. I don't know if they might be carried elsewhere in other countries or something, or maybe they are sold somewhere else and I just haven't found it yet. But yeah, extremely pleased with both of these, and I'd say I think they are extremely similar. They're almost sister units. So if you like one, you'll probably like the other. I hope you enjoyed this video. If it was helpful, please give us a thumbs up and like the video. If you're inclined to subscribe, that would help me out a lot with my channel. And if you hit the bell, then you'll get notifications whenever I post new content. Thanks for watching and have a great day.